is Kyra, and I'm here to address the social programs of Venezuela. My first point is about healthcare. According to VOA News, healthcare crises in Venezuela are very high due to the minimum doctors and nurses and shortages in 80% of medical equipment. Therefore, systems are under a lot of stress and creating a rise in dangerous diseases and illnesses, such as tuberculosis, which is a disease that affects your lungs, and malaria, which is a type of mosquito that feeds on humans. Both these diseases need to be treated immediately, or else people's lives will be at risk, but they won't be able to do that since 80% of medical equipment are not there, and there are hardly any nurses and doctors. But if there was a liberal government, healthcare systems will be more organized, and therefore, so they will have doctors and relevant hospital needs, because liberal governments care more about citizens' welfare. My second point is education. According to Britannica, secondary education lasts 2 years, and the education is free but not required. Therefore, if you are 15 or older, you have the choice to go to secondary education, but most people don't go. Hence, half the adults are uneducated. Therefore, 40% of Venezuelans are unemployed, and 40% is a lot compared to America, which there is only 3.7% of people that are unemployed. In spite of that, if we had a liberal government, the percentage would increase because the liberal governments focus on adding extra funds with higher salaries and can successfully educate students. My last point is about poverty. According to Borgen Project, poverty is a serious economic crisis. Economists say that 82% of households live in poverty. Compared to Sweden, which is a liberal country, in Sweden there's only 16% of people that live in poverty. However, if there was a liberal government, the liberal government will concentrate on safety net that concludes the need for the people, and they can bring necessary rights to economic life, just like Sweden. In conclusion, Venezuela's complicated political and socio-economic condition of virtual failure are affecting all three social programs. But if there was a liberal government, that could all change. Thank you.
We'll now hear from the Minister of International Diplomatic Relations from the right.
Okay. Hello, my name is Kale Rahman, and I will be talking about the international diplomatic relations that should be in Venezuela because of the conservative government. So, all the corruption in Venezuela is affecting most of the important systems in Venezuela: the judicial system, the security system, and also refugees. So, the judicial systems is corrupt. Normally, they're not dependent on the government. So, if the government take it to court, they will do it fairly and not change what they say, because they won't be dependent on it. But in Venezuela, they're dependent on the government. So, without the government, they will not know what to do. Now, the security. Last year, prison security guards were attacked by a gang. And 66 prisoners were detained, and 2 visitors who visited the prison were killed because the security guards were poorly trained. And the refugees now. Over 3 million refugees have left Venezuela to go live somewhere else. But in some countries, there are sanctions for Venezuelans, so they will be unable to fly to that specific country because they're from Venezuela. Now, if from a conservative standpoint, when we can vote in a new president and new government, then all those things will change. The judicial system will be dependent. There will be properly trained security guards, so no one will be killed in a prison or anywhere else. And the foreigners will come back to the country, or they'll stay there knowing that they can trust the government, instead of being feared that they could be killed, or someone that may have robbed their store or murdered them would not be sent back to the streets, but would be sent to prison. Thank you.
International Diplomatic Relations from the left.
Good morning, Unit Assembly and fellow delegates. My name is Hannah, and today I'm here to address the issues of Venezuela and why a liberal government government should be implemented in Venezuela, along with how a liberal government will benefit the international diplomatic relations. Firstly, the military. According to Al Jazeera, in the military, salaries have also quickly decreased. Specifically, according to the Reuters news agency, the middle ranks are earning about $3 to $4 a month. This means that many of the middle-ranked military officers are earning very low money and are not able to support themselves and possibly their family, as of the crisis that is happening right now in Venezuela and how they're not able to afford food. So by having a liberal government, we could have a socialist economy so that the taxes are high, but the government would use some of the money from the taxes that the citizens pay to pay a higher salary for the military officers. It would not only benefit the military officers, but it would also benefit the citizens because they would be able to still protect the citizens, and the military would also earn a higher salary and be able to support their family. Secondly, the homeland security. According to both the New Zealand Foreign Affairs and Trade and the United Kingdom government, they state, do not travel to Venezuela due to the ongoing high levels of violent crime. This means that Venezuela is currently not a safe country for both citizens and as a tourist. In addition, their average crime rate has increased over the years, specifically when Maduro became the new president of Venezuela. So by having a liberal government, we would put the citizens first and make them our number one priority to keep them safe. Therefore, to protect our citizens, we would do this by catching those criminals and having a better and tighter security as well as immigration at the airports and around the border of Venezuela to keep our country safe from terrorists and criminals, because a liberal government would always put their citizens first. Thirdly, fighting corruption. According to the GAN Integrity, most sectors of the Venezuelan economy suffer from endemic corruption due to the highly politicized and ineffective judiciary that is ineffective in cracking down on corruption and impunity. This means that the Venezuelan laws for corruption is not as strict as they should be, and that the corruption offenses aren't taken as seriously as the evidence stated. They are inefficient in cracking down on corruption. As liberals dislike corruption, and by having a liberal government, they would do whatever they can to stop corruption, as it affects both the well-being of the citizens of Venezuela, and as a liberal government would always put their citizens first. So if their well-being is not good, then that's a big problem. And the liberal government would also use minimal punishment as well as needed. In addition, according to the GAN Integrity, police officers are usually poorly trained and financed, and there's a severe issue with impunity among police officers. This means that as the police officers are not trained properly, that the police officers do not take corruption offenses seriously. So by having a liberal government, the police officers would be trained properly and better so that they can understand how corruption is a very serious crime or violation.
Okay, 10 seconds. Go ahead.
In conclusion, if our new political ideology, liberal, is used in Venezuela, then we will have a stronger protected military, tighter security and immigration, more trained police officers, and minimal punishment. This will improve the current state of Venezuela, and Venezuela will become a more stable country like liberal countries. Thank you to the UN Assembly and fellow delegates for listening, and I hope you will take this into consideration.
Okay, Min-Sung. The environment from the right-wing minister.
Good afternoon. I am Environment Minister. Today I will talk to you about our environmental policy. I belong to conservatism. Inflation in Venezuela continues to rise, and the supply of crude oil has also dropped for several reasons, causing people to stay up all night trying to fill their cars at gas stations. People think that the government is responsible for this. Venezuela has changed its policies so much that it has reached the present point, where conservatism is much better than progressivism and radicalism. Venezuela continued to change its policies in a variety of ways, but they all ended up with bad results. The opinion is that conservatism is much better because there's nothing to gain but nothing to risk if you had well become conservative and live without much sticking change. And even under the current circumstances, Venezuela is likely to fail again because the country is already in the worst situation if it changes its policy and tries something new. So I think conservatism is much more appropriate for Venezuela. Thank you for listening to my presentation today. The liberalism that seeks reform may be better than conservatism. And certainly the bad thing about conservatism, but I think in other way, conservatism can be better than liberalism. Thank you.